Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. Before we dive into this powerful episode, please remember to subscribe to our channels and give us a 5-star rating on iTunes to continue hustling. This episode is brought to you by Excite Medical and the DRX 9000, Chiro HD, Softwave, Cool Blue VA, Bridge Financial, 100% Chiropractic, Chiro Health USA, ChiroScript AI, Chiro Moguls, the Chiro Speaking Company, New Patients in a Box, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, Life Chiropractic College West, Pro Hockey Chiros, Pro Baseball Chiros, and the IFCO. You can benefit from a full list of sponsors by visiting our sponsor page at chirohustle.com/sponsors. Links in the description. Now, let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 647 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. I'm your producer, Luke Millette, and here's your host, James Chester.
So today we had the opportunity of interviewing Dr. Fred Schofield. And if you want to hear us talk about the future of chiropractic and the major premise, stay tuned for the full episode. Welcome back. This is another episode of the Chiro Hustle podcast. Today I have Fred Schofield on with me, legend, one of the greats in my opinion when it comes to the chiropractic profession. I love this man just because of what he stands for. If people don't know, Fred is one of the first people to ever teach me about chiropractic philosophy. One night we were sitting around and he taught me what above, down, inside out means. He taught me what the big idea was. He taught me about BJ Palmer, and I'm forever thankful for Fred and what he has taught me and how many people he has instilled knowledge into with his trainings and with Rhino coaching. I'm going to get into a lot of conversation with him today. We're going to talk philosophy in colleges. That will be our first discussion topic, but we'll get a little bit deeper in some other topics when it comes to cash versus insurance and high volume practice and keys to making money for new grads. But I will let everybody know our big why, like I always do on every episode. We do what we do is to protect freedom of speech. I think it's integral to the future of not only chiropractic, but humanity. We know what it's like to be shadow banned and traffic throttled and censored, and we would never do that to anybody. And we think chiropractic needs to be understood. So that's why we carry on the way that we do. We also believe in medical freedom and family health freedom. If you don't know what those things are, find a chiropractor and get guidance on that for you and your family. Philosophically sound. I've learned so much over the past 15 years since I met Dr. Fred. And one of the things I've learned is about the sacred trust of chiropractic. So I would recommend everybody to learn about the sacred trust, and I recommend them to understand subluxation-based chiropractic and to share that message with the world. And if you have a student that's in your life that needs to understand chiropractic, share this episode with them so they can understand the tenets of chiropractic and the philosophy of chiropractic. We also believe that when a person gets adjusted, it connects them, the physical, with the spiritual. And that's innate intelligence and universal intelligence. And with that being said, welcome to the show, Dr. Fred Schofield.
Yes, sir.
You're back.
I'm back. I lost it there a little bit.
So a big thank you to Palmer Rugby for bringing us together. Anybody that's a part of the Old Boys or a student at Palmer College right now, that organization would not be as strong as it is without Fred Schofield. So thank you, Fred. Thank you, Palmer College of Chiropractic. Thank you, Old Boys. And I can't say enough about that group for helping support me and to get my career started. So Fred, let's talk about it, man. Chiropractic colleges, where are we today with them?
Yeah, well, they ran a tough gig because in the old days they were all results based, and they had clinics and all that. And today that's like secondary to to graduating students. And that was the most important. All of them started out as very successful. They were all named after doctors who were super successful in practice. And then they kind of lost touch with the reality of what's going out on the street. And that's fortunate for me. That's my opportunity. So I was very fortunate to come over to America, and I got a rugby scholarship. I was a professional rugby player, and I'd been to a chiropractor one time, and I got results. I felt better. And we're going to have to get back to that. And the schools are slowly getting back to that. We're going to have to teach these kids before they graduate the skills that they need in practice. I don't see enough successful chiropractors going back to their schools and getting involved. They need to get involved, put some kids under your wings and help them along rather than what's in it for me. And our society has become all money motivated. And that's great for the short term. For the long haul, you're going to sacrifice. Because it has to be results based. And you have two sets of opportunities. Results and the process of practice. Very complicated. We call it situational management, where you learn how to adapt. Adaptability is the third sign of life. If you ever opened up Stevenson's textbook, that was by R.W. Stevenson, 1927. So a couple of years ago. And adaptability is the intellectual ability that an organism possesses of responding to all forces which come to it, whether they're inborn forces or innate forces or physiology or universal forces. And adaptation is a physical process. That means physiology that takes place at the expression of intellectual adaptation. It's a physical representation of who you are, the ability to adapt. I noticed that one of the schools out, I don't like to name each school, but one of the schools up in the Bay Area is they closed their doors. And the reason why the inability to adapt. See, when we can't adapt, that's an old rugby player of mine trying to get through to me. When we can't adapt, we close our doors. And so there are less students in the schools than there used to be. Why? Because they have to go get students. Not easy when they know nothing about chiropractic. I asked somebody who was giving me a hard time the other day, and I said, what's the major premise of chiropractic? What is it built on? Let's forget about the application, which is the adjustment. But what is it built on? Well, it's built on a major premise. Now, funny thing about a major premise, if it's right, everything off it is right. So it doesn't matter what technique you practice. They all work because the major premise is right. And I try and get, I'm involved in our fraternity and we actually have some female teachers at our fraternity. How about that? See, we're expanding our scope. So, and we love our fraternity. But we need to learn to adapt to the forces that are out there. And we went through COVID. The beautiful thing, being a chiropractor in practice, is we're essential. My goodness. If that's not a plus, I haven't heard one, because it doesn't matter when the next one comes. We're still going to be essential. That's the funny thing. Our doors never closed one day. Billion-dollar companies, Starbucks, closed their doors. Multi-million-dollar companies, the fitness center, shut their doors. And here we are. Subway shut their doors. Dentists shut their doors. We're essential because you can't give a Zoom of this. This is hands-on, baby. And that is the magic. When we lose these, and they're not very good at teaching that today in the schools, and that we need to improve our hands-on, and it's all coming from physiology. It's the philosophy of adaptation, the philosophy of how a human being adapts or responds to their environment. It's physiological. It's not psychological. And if you go to Stevenson's and you look at the missing link in the book, it's called The Missing Link. In the introduction, Chester, it says we're not a philosophy, we're not a theology. It's the missing link. The missing link is that there's this coordinates, the major premise. The major premise is there's a universal intelligence in all things that continue, give to it all its properties and actions, and thus maintain it in existence. There is a supreme creator. You lose that, you lose everything in life. You know, the funny thing is Gates and all their boys and all these guys with the bucks, they're not taking any with them. None. And they are more people. They can't figure out why people don't like them. Well, I'll tell you what. I don't know if you take care of a few autistic kids that didn't have it before they had the jab. And now they got problems. And you know what? Jeez. That's 24/7, 365 for the rest of that child's life. And you help people like that. They are totally into this. This is not a game anymore. This is life and death. And I just want to shout out to a few friends of mine. John Howard, he just passed away. He was a great chiropractor in Oxford, England. And my brother-in-law, Calvin Brown, who was a great guy, he passed away. Both of them last week. And Kirk Steckerty, my first chiropractor, he passed away last week. So there's a few things happening in the universe, but the boys had a good time while we were here. So we'll enjoy the good times. When you have the major premise in your heart, you can adapt because whatever's on your plate is my dad was a medical doctor. And he was a wine farmer and a medical doctor, and he was shut down in the Second World War and spent 3 years in a German prisoner of war camp. And he always said, deal with what's on your plate. And so I've always said, I'm so grateful to David Palmer because he started rugby, and to Tom Lowe, he's also passed on. David's passed on. But those are the guys who started it, and they gave us opportunities that I couldn't have got anywhere else. And I think the schools, getting back to the schools, I think they're on the right track. They're going to have to improve their results on how they teach while we practice. They should send a delegation to my office and see how you run a successful practice. And I tell the students today, get your hands working. You can't learn palpation overnight once you graduate. You spend 3 years, learn how to palpate, motion palpation, static palpation, and learn all the keys to practice. So you learn the pelvis and you learn the whole spine. I was taught by one of the greats, Bill Pettibon, God bless him. He's also moved on. And he said the spine from the head, the brain, the cerebellum, all the way down to the sacrum is one organ. And I got it. So it didn't matter if you went to the top or you went to the bottom. Man, you get adjusted by a Schofield chiropractor and you know you had the most amazing experience of your life. And I know because I want them to integrate all the different aspects of the art of healing. And we have to learn that. We have to teach our kids that. They're going to school, for heaven's sake. Teach them something that's useful. I even dogged, when I was at Palmer, I even said, what are we learning this crap for when I'm never going to use it? And so we started early on. My roommate, Dr. Wayne Skilton, he just retired, great guy, and a great chiropractor. And anybody in Gympie, Australia, Wayne's, well, he's retired now, but his son practices there. Interesting how the doctors who get the philosophy pass it on to their children. So I'm blessed that 2 of my kids became chiropractors and the third one's into the whole healing experience, Reiki and all that stuff. And then my wife was a pharmacist and she got into herbalism. And we got into herbalism. You know, the reason why we got into herbalism because my brother had a nervous breakdown and he was a chiropractor. And once they'd gone to the psychiatric round, I said, well, okay, now we've stabilized him. When do we get to the cause of the issue? Well, we don't. That isn't. We just stabilize you and you carry on. Okay? I just had a patient yesterday, new patient, and going for the psychiatric evaluation because they don't know what to do for pain. And pain will get you, especially if you're young, in your 20s and 30s and 40s. Pain will get you. And if you go to the right, I would love to talk to Joe Rogan on chiropractic because he went to the wrong chiropractor. You can go to the wrong doctor. You can. I went to plenty. And they couldn't help me. And then this mate of mine, Dr. Roy McCullum, who played rugby with me, he was a chiropractor and adjusted me up here, and my low back. I have a thing called Bertolotti syndrome. And so pain is a discomfort, I should say, is with me all the time. I have to be very careful. But I played professional rugby, so there you go. You can do it. But the ones who mess around with my low back and they just want to, they pop and pray, as we call them, that doesn't work for me. And so I'm very hesitant to, and that's how I got into the technique of this. So one has to learn the major premise, and the major premise and everything else makes sense in chiropractic. Physiology. Science is the science of physiology. And we go back. There was a book, you can't even get it anymore, and it's called The Curse of Louis Pasteur. Oh my goodness. And that was all about Walter Cannon and homeostasis. Oh my goodness. We're in, baby. And that was in the 20s and 30s at Harvard. No wonder BJ Palmer felt so strong about this philosophy, because once you get into the physiology, that the body, the physiology of you responds to whatever you do to it. It's called adaptation. And we covered that. That's the third sign of life. And there's a few others.
You made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. This episode is brought to you by Excite Medical and the DRX 9000, Chiro HD, Softwave, Cool Blue VA, Bridge Financial, 100% Chiropractic, Chiro Health USA, ChiroScript AI, Chiro Moguls, The Chiro Speaking Company, New Patients in a Box, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, Life Chiropractic College West, Pro Hockey Chiros, Pro Baseball Chiros, and the IFCO. You can benefit from a full list of sponsors by visiting our sponsor page at chirohustle.com/sponsors. Links in the description. Now, let's hustle. And I know you talked.
No, that wasn't a bad beginning.
No, I know you talked a lot about rugby, and I know I know you talked about rugby. And can you hear me now? How about now?
I'm on it, sis.
Can you hear me now?
Are you on? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Oh my
I
Lord.
gotcha. Yep.
How's that?
Yep. Can you hear me?
Can't hear you.
No. Then just keep going.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so I'll keep talking.
Yep.
Okay. Oh my goodness. You can see I don't do podcasts all the time, but that's because our office actually is a living office. We actually have to do things. We have to. You wanted me to talk a little bit about practice, and the practice is the secret to practice is to get results. The key is not to question the principle of chiropractic. The key is to get results. So you question the application of the doctor. And there are some incredible doctors in chiropractic all over the world. I have clients all over the world. Australia, Hong Kong, South Africa, Israel, Germany, Norway, Wales, England. I mean, all over the place. And there's some incredible healers that are chiropractors today. One of the secrets is there's so much you can do today because the kids can start in first quarter and they can start writing blogs and they can start a whole movement that we could never do when we were at school. They could start a whole movement, and that's what we need. We need a movement that's not against, because when you're against something, then you're just as bad because I'm right, you're wrong. We don't want that.
Can you hear me now?
We want to know that we are together in this. There's no planet to go to. There never will be a planet to go to. Science will never fix all our problems because they can't fix their own problems.
Can you hear me now, Fred?
Is that when you practice this healing principle and you applying your performance, the first thing you would do is, man, if you're in the students, if they're listening to this today, and I know you attract a lot of them, then they work on their inner game. And I thought I'd just share a few things about the inner game. The inner game is, we have a thing called the Rhino training, and we train. Your attitude comes from your physiology. When you get that, your cerebellum, the proprioception affects the cortex through movement. Movement is the key to getting this inner game moving. So you start to move physiologically. Your hands move, as we say, learn it with your head, create the passion with your heart, and apply it with your hands. You have to learn the application. And that's why there are such great chiropractors out there and a lot more techniques than you realize. The techniques is the application of this inner game. The inner game is what you want it to be. What is your game? What is your game? See? And people don't know, Dr. James. They don't know their game.
Can you hear me now?
They want to do this little game, and then but I really want a YouTube channel. I want the biggest YouTube channel on the planet. No, I don't. I want hands-on chiropractic in my office. I'm quite happy. That's my place. That's my sweet spot. That's where the attitude comes alive. And I have patients from all over the world. We just had a patient from Holland come, and we get them all the time. But we do we practice, and we practice old school with an update.
Can you hear me now, Fred?
With the structural spinal biomechanics, and then knowing that the whole organ, the whole spine is an organ, a central nervous system. As Reggie Gold used to say, there's no separation between the central and the peripheral. It's one system. That's correct. That's called the missing link. And that's what kids need to learn. They need to learn. If you go to piano school, I hope you could play the piano when you graduate. There are kids who can't use their hands when they graduate. That is criminal, because you can't go into and open your doors. And then when kids are skitsy about opening their doors, they don't want to open their doors because they're afraid. Well, of course, fear is the number one issue on the planet. You know, fear is the game. You got to stay out. You got to get into faith. Faith is the magic. The faith element of life. And man, did they try and shove fear down our throats. One of the greatest things was our office still makes house calls, and we made some house calls to patients during COVID. You know, I teach Schofield geriatric chiropractic, and it's because our society is getting older. Oh, baby. It ain't good. Don't be a pediatrician in Italy. And no babies in Italy, baby. But geriatrics, holy cow. Billions of geriatrics, Jim Chester. Billions of them, and going to be only bigger in the future. So hopefully they write down a little bit of the inner game. What game are they playing? What game am I playing? We go through a little GAVMAR, GAVMARS, GAVMAR, goals, affirmation, visualization. You got to know what you want. You got to write it down. Mindfulness. You got to find a routine that you're good at. You've got to be in shape. I'm 70 years old and I'm in amazing shape. And then you have to systematize your office, and then you got to do what you love to do, which is the tick. So I'll let you say a few things, even though I can't hear you. We'll just keep flowing.
So it's been pretty powerful what Fred has to share with everybody. And I just want to touch in with him to talk about Palmer College rugby. And I've been around the world recently talking about chiropractic to different international organizations. And a lot of these people don't know that chiropractic was spread globally because of Palmer rugby. And I think it's just really cool that I share that with so many chiropractors that I go and meet internationally, and they didn't know that chiropractic was spread around the world because of Palmer rugby. So I think that that's just really cool to share with people. There was so much that we were going to discuss today when it comes to chiropractic franchises, his up and coming workshops with Rhino trainings. Hopefully he'll be able to hear me throughout this episode sometime. But I also want to talk to him about running a high volume practice. Can you hear me now? And then the keys to making money for new grads. I think it's so important for, like Dr. Fred said, don't worry about the biggest YouTube channel. Be focused on creating practice that you can take care of people with your hands. I think that that's so integral to chiropractic as done by hand. It's the origin of this profession. And can you hear me now, Fred?
I can.
Oh, amazing. Thank you for sharing so much about what it takes to be a good practitioner and how the colleges where we're at today and what we can do to improve upon that. I did want to ask you, one of the questions I had for you is, what are some of your favorite seminars to speak at?
Well, I used to love Cal Jam, but we don't do that anymore. So I speak at, there's a place called Fire on the Mountain. It's actually this weekend up in Pennsylvania, and a bunch of hillbillies, but really good chiropractors, solid of the earth. And then I love New Beginnings by Jim DuBell. That's every October, and it's just a wonderful principled chiropractors who hang out. And I always like to stimulate the learning. Can I improve? We can all improve, Jim. And where else do I go? I haven't spoken many places lately. I kind of, we had my brother-in-law passed away, so we've had some issues there. We will be in Costa Mesa in September, and then of course we're in Denver in October, and then the big one, Arizona in December. And I apologize for the noise, but everything's happening today.
Everything's happening today, brother.
So
if people wanted to come check out your trainings,
yeah,
in Costa Mesa,
Sure.
and in Denver and Phoenix,
Yeah.
Where's a good place to send them to?
they could go to Schofield Chiropractic Training.com, or they could go to mochichu.com, mochihu.com, and they can we've got
I have my little Mochichu Rhino here on my water bottle.
practice what you preach. There it is. Yeah, I love it.
Cheers.
Yes. So anything else you'd like to? My wife gives the most incredible CA trainings and it's all done over the internet. She's amazing. And wow, did she get good feedback? Oh my goodness.
I love Susan, and I love the Schofield family, and I really appreciate you being on with me today. I'm sorry for the technical challenges that we have had, and I'm so thankful to be in your life and to be a part of this chiropractic community with you. I know from my own heart that I wouldn't be where I am today without that one day meeting you and you telling me to do this work and to take care of myself and to be a leader in this profession. So I thank you so much for seeing the vision with me and supporting me on my first day when I didn't know anything about chiropractic.
Right on.
And if you guys want to learn more about what Dr. Fred is going, where he is going, check him out at Schofield Training, and check him out on one of his training weekends in Costa Mesa, Denver, or in Phoenix, the big one in December.
Yes.
Dr. Fred, have a great day down there, taking care of your patients, and tell Susan and Paxton and FJ and Jira, everybody, hello from me and the team at Chiro Hustle.
Thank you, Jim Chester.
Well, I will sign off today, and next time we can get together with Dr. Billy DeMoss and Fred Schofield, we will. Sorry for all the difficulties today on the recording, but you guys are just one story away. Keep hustling. Check Fred out and see if we can help more chiropractors learn how to adjust and be great chiropractors of the future. With that, this is episode number 647 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. Bye for now, Fred.
Cheers, James.
Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.